Hi there and welcome to Code the Future, the podcast where we explore the cutting edge of embedded software innovation and the people shaping its future. I'm Matt Chandler, and on today's show, we're going to be exploring the QNX Everywhere initiative, a bold new approach to empowering developers and opening up access to QNX's trusted, world-class technology suite. And joining me today are two of the voices behind the program itself. Andy Gryc is Developer Ecosystem Director at QNX, and John Hanam is a Developer Relations Manager at QNX. John, Anna, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Perfect. So let's get started. Maybe for those who are unfamiliar, tell us a little bit about the QNX Everywhere initiative and what its aim is.
You want me to take that?
Take it away, Andy.
So QNX Everywhere is our version of the exact same software that we deploy to, thousands of mission critical systems all over the place for commercial, but done for non-commercial. So this is our attempt to get QNX exposure and product in the hands of, everybody from universities to open source developers to hobbyists, startups, you name it. So people who we normally wouldn't go and chase after their dollars, we're actually trying to actually support that community and make sure that they know that we've got, a great product out there and that they can start using it and play with it.
Gotcha. Okay. So John, you're the Developer Relations Manager. What does that developer engagement outreach strategy look like? Like, where will people find you and the QNX community reps?
Well, it's interesting. To add on to what Andy was saying, the QNX software is part of QNX Everywhere, but there's so much more that we're including as part of it, which is samples, which is community support, it's events, and it's interesting samples and interesting projects. So all of that comes together through a number of locations. So you can find us on Reddit, you can find us in Discord, you can find us through GitHub and GitLab. There's a lot of places that you can access all through QNX.com.
Okay. And are you taking feedback from the community and sort of shaping and evolving the program as you're hearing from the developer community of what they want to see? And
Absolutely. We're taking feedback in any way that we can. So the best ways to do that are through Reddit and in Discord, where you can come and talk directly to folks at QNX.
Yeah.
But if folks are using QNX Everywhere, non-commercial license to do something with QNX and they have feedback, we want to hear about it any way they want to tell us.
Yeah, and to add to that, like, for example, university relations, we're getting engaged with lots of different universities, and every one of them is a custom engagement because, we're still exploring how do we best do this? How do we scale it? How do we actually, kind of create something where we can sort of productize it? And since we're not at that point, we're learning from every single engagement that we have. So we have a conversation. I just got off a call with somebody right before this podcast, and there's new things that come up all the time, and that's helping shape either what we can offer or where we're going to go in the future.
Gotcha. Okay. So I know we launched the program at CES 2025. We're essentially about a year on from launch. What's the traction been like? How has it been received? Has anything surprised you about, how it's been received by the community?
It's been a whirlwind of activity. I think we had sort of estimates on the low end and on the high end. We're very happy with the current engagement, with the current uptake, the community participation, the types of people who are reaching out, the student activity that we've seen with QNX. It's been a good story overall.
Yeah, I would say that overall the reaction has been incredibly enthusiastic. We have a lot of people that are like, wow, we didn't know that this was available or that you guys are doing this. And, John and I had a conversation just before this. There are some people that kind of remember that we had done some open source activity before. And then when we were acquired by BlackBerry, we had to claw some of that back. Wasn't really within the scope of what they wanted to do with the phones. And so there's a tiny subsegment of the developer community that I think is still in a let's wait and see. We want to trust that this happens again. But we're talking to so many more people, and we're trying to really put our money where our mouth is, or I guess our non-commercial money where our mouth is,
Nice.
to actually, make sure that we're standing behind what we're doing this time around.
Yeah. So, all about building up that ecosystem from the ground up. When you think about the future, what does success look like? Like, how will you judge the merits of initiative 5 years down from the road?
Well, I certainly have an answer to that. I don't know if John's answer is the same, but whenever we talk to somebody, I would say almost without fail, they go, "Oh, who's QNX?" So my judgment for whether this is a success or not is I can have a conversation with a developer I've never met before, and they won't ask me that question. So if we do that, we know that we've at least gotten the message out that people actually know who we are and what we provide. If we can do that, fantastic. I mean, that's basically the first step.
Absolutely. I have to slip it in here. If we're at a school, it is, what even is QNX, bruh? Okay. I got it in. I know, but slightly different answer. That's amazing, because that's the ultimate goal, I suppose. But to see an even more active and vibrant and engaged community where people are supporting each other, and it's not about QNX stepping in to help people with what they're doing on QNX, but the community helping each other with their QNX projects. That's huge for me.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I mean, once we get people to the point of them being able to contribute back, and like we start seeing a bunch of open source repos and they're based on QNX, that will be amazing. That will be definitely a big boost, I think, to our realization of our goals, which is, it's not just us that's kind of holding the flag and charging up the mountain. It's other people that are taking causes.
Yeah, having that sort of snowball like effect, right? That flywheel where it just keeps going organically without you guys having to sort of step in and
That's right.
hold their hands or whatnot, right? So you mentioned the awareness piece. Thinking back over the past year, what other big challenges have you sort of run up against as you try to sort of build up a groundswell for this? Any lessons learned? Now that we're sort of a year on.
That's interesting. I mean, we probably have different perspectives. Focus strictly on the community. Trying to find people where they are has been tricky, in that there's different communities for different watering holes. Yeah, exactly. Right. And some of those things are new age technology like Discord servers and this kind of thing, where I feel like you tend to find a younger generation of developer. And there's communities where you tend to find a more experienced generation developer. And we're out here to find everybody and get QNX everywhere. So finding people where they are and getting the word out and engaging people in that way has been a challenge. And we've learned some lessons and adapted and adjusted and have a plan heading into the next year to expand that even more.
Yeah, I think that's a great answer. And you're right, my perspective is different. I think for me, the most challenging thing has been, knowing that we've had 45 years of history building commercial product for these serious engagements. And as a result of that, what we have created and what we offer is really tailored to that. And so us trying to get our legs under this new concept of, hey, we're going to be creating software, we're going to be giving it away for free, we're going to be doing open source, has been somewhat of a cultural shift. And I think the organization, for the most part, has really, really embraced that. They see the vision, they understand that it's crucial to our growth as a company, as well as our establishment of this ecosystem. And so I think John and I would say that there's nobody in the company who doesn't understand, who doesn't value it. It's still that we have these long historic things that we have to kind of work through to try to actually make sure that we have the best possible user experience, out of the box. We haven't been creating mobile phone apps that are gamified to do everything in one click. So I mean, it has been that. And I think for me that's probably been the biggest challenge, not the outside but the inside.
Yeah, there's a huge desire to do a whole lot, but it takes a tremendous amount of time, effort, and energy to
takes time and energy. I think there were a lot of goals that we had at the beginning, and where we've gotten is fantastic and amazing. But we see there's so much more, and there's so much more that we have kind of in the works that we're trying to do. And it just takes time to get out there. And my constant impatience with, we just got to get that out. We got to get it out. Come on, that would be so awesome. We got to do this. And I think that there is a lot of energy and enthusiasm to getting those things. But, then, the process of just kind of working through all those things has to happen, when we're not going to walk away from things like that require all of those processes, all of our ISO, all of our functional safety, all of those, security certifications, all of that stuff. We still have to maintain that. So making sure that we're doing that in a way that's, protecting what assets we already have, but also allowing us to grow in this new way, I think is crucial.
If I can add,
Please.
It takes time and energy, and we have the energy. We're pushing the time as hard as we can. It also takes feedback, right? So we learn and adapt and adjust. So that's important as well.
Yeah, that old adage of how to eat an elephant one bite at a time, right? There's a whole desire to do a whole lot. You just got to focus on one thing at a time, right?
Yeah.
You mentioned, one of the challenges being sort of finding developers where they're at and sort of the different generations and ecosystems or whatnot. Do you see QNX Everywhere? I know you want to get it everywhere, but do you see it sort of being a little bit easier with a certain, for a certain folks who are interested in a certain industry or a certain generation or a certain region in, particular countries? Or how do you think about sort of the geographic split and the vertical split based on what you've seen so far?
We've seen some pretty fascinating engagement from everywhere globally, from Asia and Europe and North America. So that's been really neat. When you start talking with a person or with a group, you can tell pretty much right away where their interest lies and what their experience level is. So we have some people who come in right away and say, "Oh yeah, I get it, I'm doing it," and they come at you with a really technical question, which is fascinating and awesome. At the same time, though, you can tell sometimes that people are really interested in this space, but don't know how to get started or aren't even sure what questions to ask. So we're there engaging with them as well. So I don't know if there's any particular group that's been more active or more interested in pursuing it. One thing we've done a lot of is touring schools, both as like dedicated engagements, but also at school events like hackathons, and that's been really energizing to see the students who are maybe picking QNX up for the first time or learning a new side of embedded where they're used to really tiny microcontrollers with very dedicated and specific code, and they now get the power of something like a Raspberry Pi or bigger, and they could do more with it, still within the realm of embedded development. That's been interesting, and got some update there as well.
Yeah, and I've got a little bit to add to John's, and I do agree that, kind of geographically, I don't see any one area necessarily reacting more or less. But I think from a vertical standpoint, I would say it's important to understand what we are and what we aren't, and what we're not trying to be is a replacement for Linux. I mean, we know that Linux has a great place in the community and, in product and all kinds of things like that. And that's great. And so we do see, though, that there's a lot of people that are tackling, projects that, really should be eventually safety certified or should actually have real-time constraints. And they're trying to do that with Linux. And in a lot of cases, we've come in and helped them after and kind of clean up the pieces. We'd love it if those people started with that. And I think that that's sort of where we see the biggest excitement around it, is people who already are either working at startups who wouldn't have been able to afford our technology, kind of without this program in place. And now they're like, oh, okay, well, we know we're going to commercialize this. This is actually an autonomous, vehicle control. Well, now we can start with kind of like something that actually is going to matter.
Yeah.
And that's really, I think, the sub-segment that we're really trying to carve out, those mission critical pieces where, like you could do it with Linux, but you're going to have a really hard time like doing a final like actual productized piece of equipment.
Yeah.
Or you could actually start with something that's going to make it easier. And if we win those customers, then I think we're doing it.
And do you see that sort of as being a very, quite a seamless process in terms of, okay, I'm going to start with a, non-commercial license. I'm going to prototype on QNX, and then, okay, I've decided, to your point, I want to commercialize this. I'm ready. Is it a relatively straightforward as opposed to porting over from Linux? It's a whole lot easier.
So there's two parts to that question. So the porting from Linux, I think, is right now not as easy as it could be. We're right in the process of doing some work that will make that incredibly easy. So so that's going to be announced. I don't know if that will have been announced by the time this podcast airs or not. But that will very much help accelerate that. And I mean, we're already POSIX compliant. So for the most part, it's very easy to take application code. But what is not easy is taking builds and all of the rest of the stuff that surrounds the application. And so we're trying to make that as easy as possible. So that's one aspect. The other aspect is just what was I thinking about? We were talking about the
transition commercially.
Oh yes, that. Thank you, John. This is why we make a great team. So that part also is not a terribly seamless thing right now. We understand that that's a gap. That's one that we've identified. So, somebody who's actually working in the startup model where QNX Everywhere is a great fit and they can start working on it. how do we know when they transition to commercial? That's something that we're actually trialing. In fact, tomorrow I'll be meeting with Oven to to actually bounce some ideas off of them, because they've got some startups in their Oven incubators, and that's something that we're kind of, to John's earlier point. I mean, we're taking feedback, we're actually acting on that feedback and trying to figure out how to move it and how to actually engage with that, so that we will see that become a lot smoother. Right now, it's not terribly smooth, but we're working on it.
Yeah. Anything else that you're excited about over the next year or so when it comes to sort of next steps beyond some of the technical things that Andy was speaking about, whether it's educational partnerships or other things you're doing on the developer relations front?
Yeah, absolutely. We're talking with a lot of great schools, and I'm really looking forward to going there. That'll be a lot of fun to go to schools, to talk to them, to engage with those students outside of Canada and a lot of other areas. Looking forward to community growth, and I'm looking forward to expanding the availability of things like quick start images beyond just a single target like a Raspberry Pi 4 into additional Raspberry Pi targets, into virtual environments, just making it more accessible for everybody. It's going to be a lot of fun.
A big part of this is obviously, filling the talent gap that exists for embedded automotive, or not necessarily automotive, but embedded software developers.
Yeah, embedded and direct. Yeah, for sure.
We always asked our final question to our guests, if you think back to your younger self, if you could give that younger self a piece of advice, what would it be and why? Obviously, you wouldn't have had the opportunity to learn QNX. So yeah, just very curious what you would say to your younger self starting out in the industry.
You don't want to go first?
I need to think of an answer.
So do I. I honestly, I would say, when I first started developing, I had very much how do I say this? I can't say this in a polite way. I thought I was God, because any developer that I had met up till that point, I could code under the table. And so I got a humbling. And it took me a while. It took me a lot longer than it should have to get there. And I think what I missed out on was a lot of people's viewpoints and things like that. I really wasn't listening. It took me a while to actually build that skill of, hey, everybody has something to contribute. And I might be great in this one narrow area, but I am not great everywhere here. And I think it wasn't until I hired on at HP that I was like, I'm working with a bunch of people who had been building the calculator that I actually use. And I was like blown away by that. Like, these are my coworkers. It was phenomenal. And they don't know C, but they know like Saturn assembly language. But so it was just this thing. And it's like, until that moment, like, that I had gotten humbled, I really wasn't listening. And I apologize to everyone who encountered me in those days. I was intolerable. So I would like to think that I've actually learned that, but I wish I could have told my earlier self that.
A recognition that you don't know it all.
I don't know it all. I absolutely don't. And now I know I'm completely ignorant. So, it's fine.
John?
Yeah, for me, I think that the technology landscape's obviously changed a lot since years ago. But one thing I see hitting students today is that there's so many companies trying to grab their attention to work on this new AI, SaaS, cloud, crypto thing, and not this foundational software. It's the bedrock of everything that runs above it.
Yeah.
And that's fine, because we need people to do all of these things. But no matter what area of the stack you're working on, I think it's fundamental to understand the foundational level, to understand the OS, to understand what's happening beneath your code, which is why I think it's important for folks to look at things like QNX and our education offerings, so they understand early in their career what's happening under the hood, so they can tune their software above it to perform properly and to support these higher level applications.
Yeah. So don't always chase the flashy objects, right?
I think it's even more than that, really. I mean, I think what you're almost saying, and at least my interpretation of that is it's not that you have to become a full stack developer, but if you are, it helps so much. Like, if you've even had a taste of that, like knowing how it goes from all the way to the bare metal up to the application layer, you aren't like stymied or mystified by things that happen because you understand kind of what that is. But to your point, I mean, I have definitely encountered, a lot of kids like during the hacks or things like that. Like if they're using Python, once it goes below the Python level, that's like, we don't know what to do and it doesn't work. So we'll just abandon it and walk away, and I mean, having that ability really, really helps. Yeah.
Agreed.
Great insights and advice, and I'm sure you'll have lots of opportunities to share it at the various hackathons and universities and colleges that you guys will be touring around to over the next year or so. But thank you both so much for joining me today, telling me a little bit more about QNX Everywhere, and we'll definitely have you on again to find out what's happening.
Amazing. Thank you so much, man.
Thank you. Cheers.